Welcome to West YouTube. This is Cooper Etheridge, and this show is brought to you by Colt Productions. Today we're starting a new show called Neighborhood Leaders, where we interview leaders in the neighborhood. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
We love having neighborhood leaders. That's what we do here. Brad is the coach of the Asteroids, a girls softball team that is an up-and-coming team, by the way, and something to watch. So you're the coach of the Asteroids.
I am. Appreciate that plug. Yes.
First time coaching?
Not the first time coaching. First time coaching was a couple years ago. The first time managing was last year. The West U Girls Softball League is so large, third largest in the nation. They had to create a new team last year. It was the inaugural season of the Asteroids.
Okay. And any returning players from last year?
My daughter from last year, yeah.
Well, that's nice. That's loyal.
Incidentally, you have to take them. So I'm gonna play the cards I'm dealt.
Other than that, all free agents from the beginning?
All free agents, some of which I played against last year. Some families that I know. So a lot of friendly faces, some new faces.
How does that work? They're all free agents, so you don't have them under contract, but you're going to do a draft. So you had to do a draft for pretty much all of them, other than your daughter.
Going to do a draft for pretty much all of them, which usually takes upward of about 6 or 7 hours, comprising of about 140, 150 girls and change, getting their due at the plate, taking a couple cuts, taking a couple throws, taking a couple catches, whilst all the managers are online to take notes on each individual girl.
Tell me about that. What are you doing?
I've looked more, not so much whether they can make contact with the ball, but what I perceive as their coachability and whether there's some athleticism in there, because I know they're human beings, obviously, and they're 8 years old with sometimes focus problems. If it looks like there's some athleticism I can mine, I'll put some emphasis on that.
And if you like their parents.
And if I like their parents, that's
Right.
also a factor.
Sure.
Not necessarily put down on the notepad, but it's in the back of my mind.
Well, I know there's a lot of politics involved, and so that must play into the draft to some point? Or?
You assume correctly that there are politics involved, but there are so many rules in place that levels the playing field, because the league ideally wants disparity with the talent. You don't want any single team winning every single game. You don't want any single team losing every single game. To where there isn't too much politics. You see the talent, you pick who you'd like in the order in which you're told, and you start your season, have fun with it.
Well, you're doing a great job. You're I guess you lost the first game, which was that was a starter game, and the next game was a tie.
It was a starter game. We played Rob Johnson's team, who I have had experience with. Great guy, great family. His daughter played with my daughter years ago at T-ball. I would put him in the upper ring of teams that we're going to have to play. So I was okay losing with that.
Yeah, that was tough.
That first game. It was a starter game. We're going to get better.
Well, one of the things you've mentioned to me, just on the side, is how much pressure there is for pitching. Because this is actually a pitching thing. You have to get out and pitch the ball for the kid. You don't have a kid pitcher or anything like that. You have to actually be one of the players.
Right. I try to broadcast that I'm being fearless, but yes, on the side, I have let on that there's some pressure, because naturally you want to provide the girls with an opportunity to succeed, and if you're throwing the ball in a place where they can't hit it, you feel poor.
In preparation, do you have something that you do to sort of get ready for the game? You have a game this weekend.
We do have a game this weekend, every weekend.
Is there some sort of ritual or anything that you do personally that kind of gets you ready?
For me, not particularly.
Yeah.
I show up excited. I think I set the tone in terms of mood, in terms of attitude. I like to have positive energy. Elliot, my 8-year-old daughter, who's on the team, along with me, came up with a cheer on the way to our first practice. And it's boisterous, and it's loud, and it's borderline obnoxious, but it gets the girls going.
I've seen that that ritual that you all do as a team.
It is.
I think it's great.
Appreciate it.
It's great. Now you played yourself Tell me about that. That was in college at St. Edward's, I believe.
It was at St. Edward's. Yeah, played since I was 5. Incidentally, in the West U Little League. But I did do t-ball from the time I was 5 or 6 and on, and did later go to St. Edward's and play baseball. Enjoyed it.
What did you play? What position?
I came in as a first baseman, but there was a guy named Stephen Poe who was 2 years ahead of me who was very good. So I started trying out for left field and grew quite good at it. Took pride in the strength of my arm and did rather well. To brag a little bit, ended up making all conference. So yeah, I played outfield while I was there.
Now the whole point of this is to brag, by the way.
Okay, good.
So please,
I'm in the right
we want to
place.
hear all about that.
Good to hear.
You had a great coach. You remember things from him?
Bud Mader was the coach who I approached and who recruited me to come play with him, along with a class of people who have become friends to this day.
Are there any inspirational things that when, whether high school or college, that, a lot of guys learn a lot from their coaches about life and even beyond the field?
Sure.
Are there some things that you learned or picked up that you're passing on to these 8-year-old girls?
I'm trying to think of where I would begin. I think that repetition is great. You may be alluding to behavior and attitude, but I'm thinking of fundamentals, I guess, firsthand, and muscle memory is good. Routine is good because you're trying to instill the right kind of habits so you don't slip into the bad kind of habits. And I remember doing some of those routines and drills back when I was 5, 6, 7, 8 over here at the West University field. So I'm very cognizant that some of the things that I say on a weekly basis to these girls, they might remember when they're 37 years old later on.
Tommy Lasorda, famous LA Dodgers
He
coach.
was.
He said this. Said the difference between the impossible and the possible lies in a man's determination. Does it also lie in an 8-year-old girl's determination?
To a large degree, it does. So I would agree with Mr. Lasorda. What you're trying to teach in addition to fundamentals is attitude, I would say. You are going to have difficulty. Not everyone is going to step on the field, particularly when you're 8, and become Kirk Gibson. So it takes practice. It takes dedication. And there are times where a child's going to be frustrated. Positive reinforcement with that repetition and a gradual improvement, I think, is the key. And you do start seeing some of that determination take place. And the girls who are truly determined, who can work past those difficulties and those humps, are the ones that succeed.
You have some great assistant coaches.
I do.
And I know how important it is in any kind of role to have people that support you, a support network. And I know, Mandy's great and so forth, but she's not on the field. You have assistant coaches. Tell me about that experience and how that works, that dynamic.
I do, and I'm very lucky. Carter Higley is an assistant coach this year, and he was last year as well. His older daughter, Selah, who is now machine pitch, was on my team on the Asteroids. And this year, Grace, his second daughter, is on my team. I've known Carter, it would be hard to put a date on it, but since we were 7 or 8, probably. We were running around on these fields that I was talking about before. And we've kind of come in and out of focus of each other's lives depending on our circumstances for years and years. So I have many stories I could tell you both on camera and off about Carter Higley. What's great about that is that we have a familiarity and we can be unfiltered with each other. What works, what doesn't. I didn't pitch so great at the last game, and the first person I heard it from was him. And I appreciate that because some other coaches and parents might be reticent to say, hey, Loper, push it a little quicker. So I'm lucky in that regard. Kim Brown is my other assistant coach who I love and is the wife to a kindergarten teacher of both of my girls. And so there's a familiarity there as well. So I'm surrounded by good people, reliable people. Brad Sabloff has helped. His twin daughters, Darcy and Bryce, are on the team, and he's been extremely helpful. So I'm lucky, in a word.
Well, that's good. That's always important. What, you've played all these years. Now you're coaching. You've got your own daughter that's playing, and this must be exciting. What is it about this sport? Baseball, softball. What is it that is just something you just can't resist? I mean, what is it that
the
such
pressure on me.
excites you?
You're putting the pressure on me. I think there is a spirit, almost an aesthetic to baseball that appeals to a lot of people. I'm one of those people. It's always been my favorite sport. I think there is something pastoral about it. You can just go to a park and see a game. It's not as much of a gridiron as football is, although I love football as well. But baseball's always appealed to me. Particularly when you know the game and you played the game, there are hundreds of things going on at any given minute in terms of what individual players are doing, what decisions coaches are making, and between pitches, you have a runner, you have a fielder, you have placement, you have catcher communication, you have hitters, and so you have the opportunity. There's a good balance of individual performance and team performance. It strikes a wonderful balance, and between pitches, there's this almost a fluctuation of pressure. You have build-up, and there's an excitable release every time there's a pitch. I know that sounds overly dramatic and sugary, but that's my best answer.
Okay, thanks, Brad, for coming today and doing this interview. This show is sponsored by Emerson Sloan, a new party supply store in the Rice Village. You don't need a reason to throw a party. You just throw it. Create memories, create fun. Emerson Sloan.